Have you ever felt tempted in some sort of way? Now, if you say you haven't, then that's probably not true, because we all feel some sort of temptation in one way or another. So, what is temptation? Well, temptation is when something external pulls us in and we get tempted. That could be something like, I know I shouldn't do it. I know it's not right for me, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's like you're going against the grain. It's like, you know, it's not the right thing to do, but the temptation of it is so appealing, it's so overwhelming that you gravitate towards the beast, the eye of the storm. Now, temptation can be a very dangerous thing. If you look at the Bible, for example, the first story ever written was about the Garden of Eden, and that was Adam and Eve, and they were tempted by the serpent, the snake. And the snake said to Eve, eat the fruit from the tree and you'll be like God himself. That was the first ever recorded temptation according to the Christian Bible. Anyway, what is this video about? It's about temptation, because if you understand what temptation is, you'll never be tempted again. And something very interesting happens when you free yourself from desire, lust, and again, temptation. And in this video, you're going to find out exactly how to do it. You're going to be free from desire and temptation. And I'm going to teach you how to do it, starting right now. Okay, so temptation, what is it? How does it work? So again, we sort of went through it a little bit, but we're going to go into it a lot deeper so you understand thoroughly about exactly what it is. And what it is something which you probably aren't aware of, because if you were aware of it, you wouldn't be watching this video. And hopefully this video will give you some insight, some secret knowledge to what attachment is. Because attachment is basically temptation. It's when you feel attached to go in a certain direction. So what is the opposite of attachment? It's detachment. So to get rid of temptation, you have to detach yourself from it. And how do you do that? So in this video, we're going to go into understanding, firstly, what detachment really means. You're going to enjoy this. Okay, so detachment isn't coldness or indifference. It's freedom through awareness. It's not that you stop caring. It's not that you stop clinging to an idea. You can still love, work, and enjoy things, but without being possessed by them. In other words, being attached to them or owned by them. Now, this gets really deep once you understand how the mind and the emotional mind works, because we've all got one. I've got one, you've got one, but what we're going to do is learn how to detach from it, because once you've got detachment, temptation can't grab you and pull you in, because there's a separation. There's no temptation because there's no attachment. Okay, think of this. Detachment means I can enjoy it fully, but if it leaves, I remain whole. If you start doing that, you start to live in the world, but not of it, because you're connected, yet not enslaved. That's what Jesus says. Be in the world, but not of it. That means you can enjoy things, but don't attach yourself to them. An example of that is if you give a baby a toy, it'll take it, it'll give it you back. But when that child becomes older, that baby becomes older, becomes like a little child, sometimes if you give that child a toy, then take it away, what does the child do? It cries. Why? Because the child is now attached to the object. That's when attachment starts. See, it starts from a very early age. So you could be in a relationship and your partner left you. It breaks your heart. And why? Because you're attached. Attachment is like temptation. Temptation can't come in without attachment. It's the same bloody thing. So again, we're going to go into it in a lot more detail, and I'm going to explain it a lot more thoroughly for you so you're fully aware of what's controlling you. You have something called emotional detachment. That's letting go of what people think. That's another thing, isn't it? We all care what people think. Why? If we were detached from what they think about, we wouldn't care. But we're not. We care because we're attached. So the answer to everything is detachment, dissociation. Create a space that there's a void. That means you don't have to go there. There's no emotional connection. So how do you do it? Well, it's awareness. Again, awareness. And you have to practice awareness. When someone's opinion stings, you should pause and ask, what belief have I got inside me that's reacting? Usually it's an ego identity and a need to be seen, to be valued. Again, if that's the case, are you detached or attached? Well, you're attached, aren't you? Because you care about the opinion of other people. You care about what people think of you because you're attached. Again, you've got a detached. Okay, let's look at natural observation. You should observe your emotions, reaction, as if it was a weather just passing through your mind, like fogs just floating around, like just clouds, they come, they go. Don't fight it, feel it fully, and just let it pass. Remember, every opinion, feeling, judgment, it all changes, and people's minds shift constantly. So why anchor yourself to what is fleeting? Fleeting means it comes, it goes up and down, it passes. Nothing stays the same. If you're upset with someone, you're not going to feel the same level of upsetness a year from now, because everything's fleeting, everything changes. Things never stay the same. The result in this is that you will stop performing for approval. You'll start being, instead of seeking validation, it'll stop. You don't care. You've created a separation, and this is what it's all about. You also have something called material detachment, which is releasing the grip of possessions and status. Now, how do you do it? Well, you've got to practice minimalism. You could start small. You could ask yourself before buying something or keeping something, you could ask yourself, if I lost this tomorrow, would I lose this piece? You've got to understand and see that things are temporary and they're all there as tools. So use what you have without identifying with it. That could be clothes, money, homes. They're not you. They're just tools. It's like you're not your body. You have a body. You're not your name. You have a name. If you meet someone, you say, tell me about yourself. They'll tell you their likes, their dislikes, what they do for hobbies, blah, blah, blah. But that's not who they are. That's just things that they like. The truth is, they don't even bloody know who they are, because most of us don't. Because we don't ask these types of questions. And because we don't know ourselves, when temptation comes in, we don't think about it or look at it through separation. We just have an unconscious attachment towards it, and we don't know why. But you're going to find out as we go on. Don't seek things. When you focus on contribution rather than accumulation, your inner world expands while your need for external things actually shrink. What is the result in all that? If you did that, well, peace no longer depends on what you own. Wealth or poverty can touch your inner stability. In other words, you've got the external world, the material world, the world of form and things, right? And we all want that. We all want that. We all want that. But we think, why? Because if I get that thing, then I'll feel a certain way inside, and that's what I want. So the reality is, when you detach it, you realize that everything you ever wanted is actually a sensation, an emotion inside you that you've got anyway. In other words, you could be in a room full of food and still starve to death. You could have all the money in the world and still be unhappy. You hear it all the time. Celebrities, they have fame, fortune, everything. The world is given to them. And are they happy? Most of the time, no. They can't find happiness because it's not real. So anything could be going on outside of themselves, but because it's not an internal job, they're never going to feel it. They just have this empty void, this soulless emptiness. I feel sorry. And when I say this, I feel saddened that people like the royal family, and you look at them and think, oh, they've got everything. Can you imagine how they feel when they're sitting there, lying in bed on their own? What's going on in their heart? Is it full of joy? No. You won't see that because when on the telly, they wave, they smile, they're very prim and very proper. And that sends out a message that we think, oh, aren't they nice? But the truth is, you don't know how they feel. You don't know how they feel. You haven't got a clue. We just assume because we see what we see. We invent and construct an idea of that image that's being presented to us, and we create our own reality. But the truth is, you haven't got a clue what's going on inside someone's mind, and more importantly, you haven't got a clue what's going on inside their heart. And that is where the power is. It's not the mind, it's the heart. Because you're not your mind, you have one. You're your heart. Okay? Bear with me. You see, detaching from desire, lust, and temptation. This is so important because once you do it, it'll blow your bloody socks off. Because lust and temptation are rooted in the mind's search for completion through sensation or fantasy. Freedom doesn't come from suppression, but understanding. Know thyself. So how do you bloody do it then? How do we do this? How do we get to know who we are so then we can recognize that external things can't tempt us because we've got everything we ever bloody wanted inside us. We just couldn't see it. How do we do it? How do we do it? Well, how do you do it? This is how you do it, okay? You've got to see desire as energy. Instead of fighting it, just observe it. When lust arises, don't act. Watch the feeling as a wave of energy. See where it comes from. It usually arises from loneliness or wanting a connection. Because if you haven't got the connection with yourself, you're going to look for it from somewhere else. You're going to look for attachment. Again, it doesn't have to be like that once you know who you are, because once you know who you are, you won't be attached to external things. The thing that you ever actually bloody want is already here. It's here now, in you right now. You don't have to read a book. You just have to become consciously aware that you are enough. So transmute it. The same energy that drives lust can fuel creativity, focus, and devotion. So you should channel it, exercise, write, meditate, or build something meaningful. And meditate. Every pleasure fades. Every high drops. When you see this clearly, the craving loses its power because it's just energy. And what you give your energy to, what does it do? It makes it bigger. Thoughts become things. Attention goes where energy flows. We've heard all these sayings before. Listen to the truth. What is the result if you do that? You will experience deep calm, and pleasure becomes a choice, not a compulsion. In other words, could you be in a room full of 100 people and still feel lonely? Yeah, of course you could. Could you be in a room full of 100 people and they're all interacting with you, being friendly? Could you still feel lonely in that moment? The truth is yes. Could you be a super rich, attractive, desirable human being and everybody's showering you with love? Could you still, in that state, feel lonely? Yes. But why? Because it's not an external thing, it's an internal thing. They're not the same thing. And all temptation comes from outside. You've got mental detachment. This is a good one. That means freedom from thoughts and identity. Your mind constantly produces thoughts, labels, and stories. Detachment comes from when you realize that. Once you realize that you're not your identity, that you create a detachment. That's why you see people and they say, I identify with this. That's lovely, okay? That's lovely. But if you separate and go, I identify with no thing, nothing, I'm just consciousness, having an experience, observing this world around me through the only way I can, which is my five senses. In other words, I see the world, I smell the world, I taste the world, I touch the world, and I hear the world. I experience it through these five senses, and then I have an emotional attachment to the things that I see because they're filtered through this thing called the brain, which bring up past associations, experiences that I attach to that thing that I'm observing, and then it creates my reality. It's a bit deep that, but that's exactly how it is. Once you wake up and you see things for what they really are, which is detachment, that means you step away from it and look at it for what it is. You go, now it looks different. It's like drowning. If you're drowning underwater, you can't really think about what you're doing. You're bloody drowning. The water's all around you. It's going into your lungs. You're drowning. But if you can step out that water and just observe, go, okay. Now there's a dissociation, a detachment. And you can do that whenever you like. You can do that with your thoughts. You can do it with your feelings. You can do it in your life. You can create a separation. And this is what you need to do. Because once you create that separation, what is this? This is what they call peace. And he said, what's peace? Well, try it and you'll feel it. It's bloody lovely. I am not my thoughts. It's so important. You are not your thoughts. You have thoughts. What you really are is you are awareness or consciousness watching the thoughts. Now, to show you how you do this so you can experience what I'm trying to get through to you is this. Meditate daily. Now, if you don't know what that is, you just sit quietly and observe your thoughts without following them, like clouds drifting across a sky. Self-preservation. In other words, ask yourself, who is thinking this thought? The moment you look for the thinker, thoughts then lose their grip. So if you think of a thought and the thought's going on, you're thinking now, you've got to step away and go, who's thinking this thought? What's behind the thought? And what's behind the thought is your pure consciousness, which is not attached to bloody anything. And that's where you want to bloody be. You've got to detach from identity. Drop the stories. I am successful. I am failure. I am this type of person. You're not your stories. You're the space in which the stories appear. Listen, you are not the story that you construct of yourself. Well, this is my religion. This is my beliefs. This is me. That's the story. You're not your story. You're the space behind where the story appears. Your consciousness. And in this vibration, this realm, this is where you should stay all the time. Because once you're in that vibration, that frequency, you can see everything because your consciousness gets bigger and it expands. And if you're conscious, you can see things that you couldn't see before. Okay, so what would be the result of that? If you did that, well, you would no longer live inside your mind, your thoughts. You become peaceful even when the mind is noisy. So you could be very calm and your mind could be spinning full of trauma and stories and what of this, what of that? But there's a separation. The mind and the heart, the spirit, the chi, the space, there's a separation. They're not entwined. It's only when you identify with the mind is when the problems are caused. People say, I'm depressed. No one puts the hand on the heart and says, I'm depressed. They put the hand on the head and go, I'm depressed. Why? Because all negative, the low vibrational, depression, anxiety, fear, it all exists in the mind. So if you could create a separation, said, well, I'm not my mind, which you're bloody not, then there's no fear, there's no temptation, there's no lust, there's no desire. It's just pure consciousness. And you can't just do this like that. You have to practice it, because you've been living in your mind for so bloody long that you think that you're your thoughts, but you're not. You're the observer behind the thoughts. You see, when you're no longer attached, things change. When you're not attached to external things, as well as emotions, material possessions, or even thoughts, something then profound happens. You feel light. The constant push and pull of wanting and fearing suddenly disappears. You'll act freely. Decisions come from clarity, not craving or anxiety. You love more deeply, and I mean true love, because true love doesn't cling or possess over things. It flows freely without fear or loss. Your experience will be of contentment. Peace no longer depends on your circumstances. It just arises and gives birth from inside of who you are. It sounds very spiritual, this. It sounds very hippie-ish, but it's the bloody truth. Once you become aware of it, and once you become aware of it, you become authentic. You stop being a reflection on other people's opinions. You just become present. You just become I am, which is the word of God. I am Yahweh, Jehovah. This is who you are. I am. And that's who you are. You're just are. It just is. You're a spiritual being or consciousness, just experiencing the world. But then we get stuck in our thoughts and we think we're our thoughts. And that's when we get depressed, because it's not a natural state to be in, because you're not your bloody thoughts, your consciousness having a bloody experience. And once you feel that, and once you dance in that vibration, that emotional state, you'll see very quickly that everything is perfect. You're perfect. Everything's perfect. It's an ocean of emotion. It's calm, quiet, and you can literally be in a room that's on fire and you'll be just as cool as a cucumber. You've got to remember the daily path is to detach. And remember, detachment, that's what you want. You want to detach. And how do you do it? Well, number one, in the morning, sit silently for at least 5 minutes and remind yourself, nothing external defines me. Throughout the day, when your emotions rise, which they will, all you need to do is breathe and just observe, and don't react instantly. Remember, watch the thinker. You have an emotion or a thought, just watch the thought. Create the detachment, create the separation. Number 3 is evening reflection. So at the end of every day, what you should do is ask yourself, what did I cling on to today? What can I do better tomorrow? What if I realized about what I did today that I can shift and learn from and do the opposite thing tomorrow? In other words, someone could say something and it's hurt your emotions, and then you get emotionally affected by it, and then you feel sadness. What did you learn from that? It says, well, wait a minute. If I'm just consciousness having an experience, why was I affected? Because I was living in my mind. But if I take a deep breath in and just create a separation, the world could scream at you. It wouldn't bother you because you're not your mind. You're pure consciousness having an experience. So now you should learn from that and take it into tomorrow. Okay? It's hard to do this, but if you do it, you will grow. And when I say grow, you'll bloody glow. Number 4 is weekly. What could you do weekly? Simplify something, clear the clutter, forgive someone, or stop and just take a step back from a toxic loop. Yeah, we've all done that. You'll be arguing with someone. It doesn't go anywhere. It's just toxic. And what does it do? It pulls your emotional state down, vibration. You feel depressed. And then you have to create a separation. You go, okay, I'm detaching now. I'm detaching. And you create that separation. Because again, once you create that separation, that's where you get the peace. Okay, so my final thoughts on this is you don't have to destroy attachments. You simply have to see through them. When you see clearly that nothing external can complete you, freedom arises naturally. The freer you are from desire, the more love, creativity, and joy can flow through you. Not because you forced detachment, but because you become awake to the truth of who you really are, which is spirit, energy, consciousness, awareness. Call it what you bloody like. You are the space. You are the observer. You are the watcher of the thoughts. I hope this video wasn't too deep and overcomplicated. I tried to make it as simple as I can. So in a nutshell, again, temptation only arises from the thinking mind. Because when temptation comes, the only reason you ever want to be tempted by the thing is because you think that you will feel different if you have that thing. But the truth is, it's external, so it doesn't matter anyway. The only way for you to feel different, to get that love, that sensation that you're desperately searching for, which you need, the only way to get it is to take it from yourself because you've already bloody got it. You cannot buy it. You cannot find it. It cannot be given to you because you've already got it. You can't find love. You are love. You can't find happiness. You are happiness. You can't get to the light. You are the light. And from this state, from this space, observe the world and enjoy things. But temptation, it'll have no power because you've already got it. You've already got it. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, it's a bit deep and I've tried to simplify it and keep it as basic as I can. But again, I can go into a lot more deeper than this. But again, maybe another time. So breathe, be aware that you are not your thoughts. You have thoughts. You are consciousness behind the thoughts themselves. And this isn't pseudoscience. We all now know this. They're a lot more bigger than you actually thought. You just weren't aware of it. But the good news is you are now. Till next time, guys. See you in the next one.